So I want to go back to the semester that I first went online at a TA meeting a couple of weeks before the semester began. My awesome TA, Esther Salmon, who is one of many, she is an awesome TA amongst a long line of awesome TAs that I've been lucky to work with. I had said, well, this isn't going to be the best semester ever. I was overwhelmed by sort of the chaos, by the anticipated workload. So I was trying to put everyone at ease, including myself. This is not going to be the best semester ever. And Ms. Salmon said, actually, you don't know. It might be the best semester ever. She might have been right. She often is. That was the semester that I really made progress in letting go of many of my pedagogical ideals. On reflection, I'm still coming to understand how much of my teaching was conditioned by these ideals about what should be learned, about how it should be learned, which often didn't mesh with how the education experts said things should be learned, ideals informed by student evaluations, ideals informed by learning objectives, and most problematically, ideals rooted in an illusion about who my students were. My students are not all future history professors, and it's taken me many years to realize that. I'm taking Zoom singing lessons right now, and last week, the teacher said that I sang like Chewbacca, who is a Wookiee from Star Wars. And at that moment, I realized, oh, this is what it must be like to be a C student in my history classes, full of enthusiasm, but meeting expectations that are totally inappropriate and daunting. So that semester, full of uncertainty about going online and about those ideals, I tried to let go of all my expectations. So no exams, no learning objectives. We were just going to get through the semester. I embraced an open pragmatism. I began to think of teaching as the art of the possible, as being driven by can rather than should. So today, pragmatically, I just like to share two examples of things that seem to be working sort of much of the time. The first is equity points. The history of equity is a research field for me, and sort of my equity doesn't perfectly match on to how it's being used today. Classically, equity is just deviations from universal rules for whatever reasons. The hardest ideal for me to give up, in part because I don't want to give it up, is the fairness of grading consistently. Students have actually, I've been a strict grader, and some students have said that they actually really appreciate keeping that as an aspect of fairness. But how do I balance that consistency in grading with the fairness of acknowledging students' particular circumstances? To be more pragmatic, I developed a system of what I call equity points, where I quietly and informally award to individual students these points in response to extraordinary difficulties that are unanticipated by the formal rules in the syllabus. At the end of the semester, I look at who has the most equity points to determine how much of a bonus to give the students across the board. That is, everybody gets the same bonus. There's a fairness of consistency there, but the size of that bonus is determined by who has the most equity points, by the fairness of circumstances. The second thing that seems to be sort of working, much of the time, is specifications grading. This is a system of grading that I had wanted to experiment with for many, many years, but I lacked the courage until this semester of going online when everything seemed possible. Good things and bad things seemed possible. So in theory, in specifications grading, students get to choose the grades they want, and then they complete the assignments necessary for that grade. In practice, the individual assignments are graded pass or fail, or in a better messaging that I just heard this morning, pass or not yet. You haven't failed the assignment, but you have not yet passed it, based on whether they meet clearly laid out specifications, and students can revise failed assignments until they meet those specifications. The first year, the system was very well received, and Esther Salmon, my TA, and I published an essay on it, which I will put the URL in the chat, or I will try to, in case people are curious. It was well received. The one complaint we've received from students was that there was little margin for error, that you had to, if you wanted to get an A, you had to pass every assignment at the first time, which we could appreciate that would be stress causing. So we improved the system. The second year we offered it, we included a special do-over opportunity for all students. The less rigorous version was unexpectedly widely disliked by students. I think they felt a little bit of leeway, and then they ran with that, and yeah, and didn't sort of appreciate the overall strictness of the system. I've been working on messaging a lot since then, like realizing how much of the system depends on students' expectations and psychology. So the third year, the jury's still out, that we'll see. But it's okay because I'm now pragmatic. I've embraced my pragmatism, and I hadn't turned specifications grading into a new ideal. So if next year we can't fix it, we'll abandon it, and that's okay. I'll end on just one note of an advantage of pragmatic teaching that I wasn't expecting. For all my trying, I still have some expectations, especially of students. And last week, some of those, there was a mismatch between my remaining expectations and some student assignments. A few years ago, when this would happen, this would signal a change. I usually have cyclical teaching where I have periods of inspiration and energy, and then there's this expectation reality mismatch, and then the energy and inspiration turns into despair and lethargy, and it repeats at pretty regular intervals. But this time I didn't feel it. I felt the pragmatism sort of had me grounded in reality, so that this mismatch was just par for the course, and it felt yeah, more stable, like I was teaching in reality, maybe for the first time. Thanks for your attention.